What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim and goal is to help leaders get better each and every week. On today's episode, I have a very special guest. Actually, this guest brings me back all the way to 2008. I had the opportunity to do my very first Chick-fil-A grand opening with this individual. And after my performance at that grand opening, I had the opportunity to do close to maybe 9 other grand openings with this individual. This guy has done over 60 grand openings. He has been around the brand for a very long time. He was a pioneer and leader for a lot of initiatives that we have seen today in different forms, but began with the work that he was a part of back in the day. Nowadays, I can say that that's back in the day, but I'm talking about Brad Tage. Brad Tage is somebody who I look at as a lifelong friend and somebody that I've had the opportunity to participate in business and life. I've learned a lot from Brad during our times at grand openings, during our times of just being in the trenches together, so to speak. As we've been helping open restaurants across the country, and we've just stayed in contact. And this is probably a top 5 conversation for me in terms of just going down memory lane of what we used to do and how we used to look at the brand and approach our work. And so I'm really excited to be able to share this episode with you all. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode.
Take this, my love, mine.
What's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim is to help leaders get better each and every week. On today's show, I've got a very special guest. This guest is here more for me than he is here for y'all. And I'm talking about a leader by the name of Bradley Tage. He goes by Brad Tage. And I'm going to introduce this show with a story. Brad may not remember this, but this is something that really resonated with me and really was the launch pad for my career long term for Chick-fil-A. So I was at my first grand opening in 2008 in San Bernardino, California, for an operator by the name of William Crum. And I was breading. I used to work in the kitchen. That was, I got onto the grand opening circuit doing kitchen work. So I felt like I was a good breader. So opening day, somebody decided to put me on breading, right? So I'm breading for lunch. And I used to have this little trick I used to do. Now I'm a little older. I don't really appreciate the trick, but that's before they introduced all the ETMDPs, certified trainers. We kind of was just doing our thing out there on the road. So I was breading, and I breaded. I used to bread like 2 batches at a time, put them on the fillet tiers, go back and bread again. And I try to challenge myself on how many fillets I can get dropped at one time, right? So Brad was on boards, man, and we were holding on regulars. And they look back to me and they say, well, how long do we have on fillets and how many do we have dropped? And I turned around and I said, I said 96. And everybody on that front line turned around because I had 4 machines cooking. I mean, of course, that first 2 batches are about to come up, but I used to get there used to be a thing for me to see how many fillets I can have cooking at one time, right? And so I'll never forget. After that lunch was over, Brad, you turned around and looked at me and said, "Hey, you can come with me anywhere we go." And that was really, I mean, I think I went on a 10 grand opening run with y'all. We went on a lot of grand openings that year. We were actually one of the first classes to do Chick-fil-A's grand opening trainer program. I think the first class we had a grand opening scheduled, and then we got on a second class to do it. And so again, I don't know if you remember that or not, but like that was the start for me in our relationship. And I just appreciate everything that you've done. And I guess in trying to mold me as a young leader out on the road, figuring out, like, I mean, I was 18. I forget how, I don't know how old y'all were, but I was really young in comparison to some of y'all. And just the experience. And I think about a lot of the things that you used to talk about. I remember you said, I'm from Beaumont. You're from, the first thing you said, you're from the armpit of Texas. And I was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? You know, but I just appreciate how transparent you were about the processes and just bringing me along with you guys. I was just a kid from a little city in Texas, just running with y'all. So I appreciate you, man. So how are you doing today?
Great, man. So, just a little backstory on me. I grew up at Chick-fil-A just like you did. Right out of high school, I was a multi-sport athlete. I'd play football in the fall and then wrestle in the spring. So I didn't work through high school. It wasn't until after my senior year that I really started to work there. And I'd been working for Rusty on Mason Road in Katy, who, I mean, he's still out there now. He's got 3 stores now, so he's a big timer. And just started working in the store, and had been in the store for probably 3 years. And we opened the Conroe store, Eddie Cober's first store, Eddie and Angie, and Dan Cathy was there. So when he would travel to openings, dude, he would come with a corporate entourage. And so I met like 10 people from home office, and then of course he played the trumpet. And it was a Houston opening, so by our grand opening standards, it was nothing. But I immediately fell in love with it. Just the pace, the camaraderie, people coming from around town to do what we do every day. But when you do it with different people, it was really something special, man. So I kind of got bit by that bug, and then ended up traveling just like you did, ended up getting on the West Coast team, did the first West Coast opening, surprised Arizona. And back then they had, the GOS program. And I think that's really when it kind of all took off, and we really got to collaborate because it was just a bunch of, and you say you were a kid, we were all kids, bro. I mean, that's the only way you could do it. Back then they didn't cap your salary, they didn't cap hours. It was your hourly rate you were making in the store, and if you wanted to work open and close for 2 weeks straight, brother, we did it. I remember some of these times, man, working 96 to 100 hours in a week, and Chick-fil-A's only open 6 days, man. So we literally would get there before the store opened and work all day, close it down, go sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then turn around and do it again. So it was fun, man. And I ended up spending more time with that crew, that traveling group, than I did my own family there for a little while, man. Shoot, you and me roommated multiple times, dude, 2 weeks at a time. And
Yeah.
I was spending more time with you than I was my parents.
Yeah. No, man, it's interesting. Like, I love having these conversations with people who are like really, really in old school Chick-fil-A, because we can really relate on some things. Like, I remember like my first grand opening, I think I put up 80 and 70 hours, back to back to back. I think we did Midwest City, Oklahoma together. I think I put up 94 hours that first week, which was just insane. Like, and you probably don't remember this. That first week we were there, we had every type of weather you could have. It was sunny one day, it sleeted one day, it hailed one day. It was crazy, man. But no, like we've shared a lot of good times together. And like I said, I just, you've been interacting with me on Facebook, and I appreciate all the support that you give to myself and to what I'm trying to do from a business standpoint. And yeah, man. So just jumping into the interview, like, what are some of the things that you feel like Chick-fil-A has taught you about leadership?
Leadership aside, Chick-fil-A to me was always kind of like the military or a sports team. It was so incredible to have so many different people from so many different cultures, backgrounds, ethnicities. Yes, it gets labeled as a Christian company, but don't get it twisted, man. There's Muslims, there's Jews, there's, we had a guy at Mason Road that worked for us from Pakistan, Muslim, spoke Urdu. It was just, so for me, that was so cool. And then to go, Chick-fil-A took me places that as a young man at 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, I would never been able to go on my own. To be able to go all over California, or shoot Olathe, Kansas, and stay there for 2 weeks, Doral, Miami, and stay there for a whole month, and just to get to travel to some of these places and see some of the sights of America that I never got to see, and then bring a brand that you and I grew up with, that we loved, and the culture that we loved, to people who didn't even know what it was. I mean, how many times was like, how do you even say that? Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A, and and then just back then, corporates buy-in when we were doing all the West Coast stuff. Hey man, get there and do 10,000 sandwiches and pass them out. And my oldest, who's 18, he works at Chick-fil-A, and I tell him that we used to go and do 10,000 sandwiches in a day, and he's like, what? No way. And I'm like, oh yeah. And he's like, and people would pay for it. I'm like, no, we gave it away for free. And he was like, you gave it away for, he can't, it just blows his mind. But I mean, I think what Dan and the corporate crew at that time had created that legacy of get the product in their hand, because you can describe it, you can see it in a picture, you can talk about it, but until you open that foil bag and that steam comes out and you take that first bite, dude, you just don't get it. And I really enjoyed those times, man. And just I'm still like this now. I coach. I mean, I coach my kids' teams, and I love to see. And this is the great thing about leadership. And I to answer your question, I'll circle back. This is my greatest thing in leadership. Sometimes someone can see something in you, in your potential, that you could never see in yourself, and they almost manifest it on you, and almost like prophesize it on you and say, hey man, you can do this, and because you can do this, you can teach other people to do this, and it's just each one teach one type deal, man. And I feel like as we got going and built steam, we'd always do that. Hey Alex, you're gonna be in the kitchen, I'm gonna be up front, keep an eye out for some of these kids, man, and let's take them with us. And let's, I mean, how many of these kids from urban areas, especially Beaumont, city of Houston, inner city kids that, couldn't afford a car, and here they are in, uh, California for 2 weeks and getting to see some of the sights. And then, Chick-fil-A was always so gracious and would take us to ball games and try to do things like that, so that you really got to see the areas that we were in and how you affected the community you were in. So that's still something that I love to see in young kids, whether it's sports related or even mental, where there's such a problem with mental health and kids not believing in themselves, and they just don't socialize like we do, that everything's with their thumbs, man. So to speak over some of these kids and see their whole mindset change, and it's literally, like, they're like, wait, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. I mean, for me, it was just, I never thought that working at a fast food restaurant would lead to the career that it did. And I mean, I was there for 15 years, 68 openings across the country. I mean, it's just incredible. And I'm still friends with a lot of the people that we worked with, man. Most of them are operators now. Some of them are business consultants at corporate. Some of them are at corporate, but a lot of them are operators, and we still stay in touch and have these kind of reunions and reminisce about, dang man, you remember when we were up front, and Olathe, Kansas, it was triple wrapped around the building. We had 4 police officers in the parking lot just to direct traffic. People would come to the window and were like, how long you been waiting? They're like, 4 hours. And you're like, you just waited 4 hours for a number one with a sweet tea? And they're like, I've been waiting 5 years for y'all to get here. I don't care how long it took. So it's just incredible. And even now to see the impact that Chick-fil-A has in communities, especially my hometown of Katy, where, we started, literally that store on Mason Road was in a cow pasture. And we started doing, I mean, less than 10 grand a day. And now just to see it perform, and Rusty's produced, I think 5 operators or 6 now. He owns 3 stores, and just to see that legacy continue is really cool. And to be able to say that I had a small part in it. I mean, like you alluded to, a lot of these grand opening teams, we created that. A lot of the processes, I mean, we got to go to corporate and sit down with Britt Sims and Amy and all those guys and literally write the books. I think there was 20 of us in that class, and we literally sat down and said, hey man, start to finish, ice cream machine, how do you clean it, how do you set it up? Hey, sodas, how do you clean them, how do you set it up? Hey, if you're breaking down the lemonade, what is somebody walking in off the street, we can hand them this book and then be successful. So it's really cool to see that evolve, and that they still use it today is awesome. And then there was a small group of us, Travell Harvey, myself, it's fading me now, but there was 5 of us that got to go to Atlanta and do the very first inline kitchen and be a part of that. And to see that go from a model in a warehouse at corporate to putting it in the first store in Georgia and getting to go and work with it, and us get to use it and facilitate it and see what it's changed from the first, the prototype model to what it is now. And now they don't build a store without it, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah, man, you're not say a relic, but you're a piece of Chick-fil-A history in all seriousness, man. And you touched on so many like legendary things. Like Olathe, Kansas was like now of course stores do what that sales number is like on a regular day, but back then what y'all did out in Kansas was nuts. Like it was when we heard those numbers, we were doing maybe 30 to 40% of that on a daily basis. And just, I remember, now I'm not going to say too much. I remember the stories about like what y'all had to do to thaw chicken. I mean, because there was no capacity models to even address that.
We would have had to be successful. We would have literally had to probably get 2 trucks a day for the time we were there, because even then it was just speculation. We had no idea, and especially even as thorough as Chick-fil-A is, they had no idea the depth of what was about to happen, because that's a military town. So there was a ton of transplants from the Southeast that grew up with Chick-fil-A. And they, like I said, I mean, the one guy at the window, and he was like, I haven't eaten in 4 years. I don't care. I would have stayed out here for days just to get a Chick-fil-A sandwich. But I mean, I remember trying to bag with Becky Chin, who's a multi-unit operator now over on 45 and Wayside. She's killing it. And we're looking at the screen, dude, and there's 108 orders off the queue just in the top right corner where it says. And we're just looking at each other like, what, how are we gonna, and she's like, just take a deep breath. We're gonna do it one at a time. I'm just gonna take it one at a time. And so I remember leaving some of those days, man, and your feet just felt like hamburger meat. And you hadn't eaten all day, so it's like 2:00 in the morning, and luckily there was like a Denny's or something. And I remember going with Courtney Holmes, who's also an operator now in Fulshire, and eating. And then I'm like, all right, cool. Let's get 2.5 hours of sleep, and I'll meet you back up front at 4, and we'll drive back and do it again. And sure enough. So, but man, I mean, it was like that one killed the record. But then, Alex, it was like everyone we did after that blew that one out of the water, and then we started to hit Chicago. And those Chicago openings were just ridiculous. I mean, it was just like we couldn't fathom Olathe, and then we hit Chicago and almost doubled it. And it was just crazy. And, again, you want to talk about I learned more in my first opening than I had 3 or 4 years of Chick-fil-A, just because to do those numbers, it was crazy. And to keep up. I mean, we're literally making scrambled eggs in a soup pot. I'm making folded eggs in the oven on a biscuit pan. We you would pour the liquid eggs out and get it just like millimeters from the top of the pan, put it in there, and then we cut up the squares with a spatula to keep up. And I remember just cutting open trash bags and covering everything with plastic to lay chicken wherever you could, so you could thaw it out without having to soak it in water and do some of the crazy things that we had to do. But yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. But it's just to get to, I mean, and that's the whole thing. These were things that we were doing that no one else got to do, and it really brought us all together. And just like you said, once you knew somebody could handle it, you wanted them with you everywhere you went, especially when we started to switch from grand opening trainers to grand opening supervisors. When I was running an opening, I wanted an Alex on breading. I wanted a Jesus on machines. I wanted, um,
The stay
Jenny
behind
Clark.
bagging or something like that.
Yeah, I wanted Jenny Clark on boards. I wanted, my now wife bagging for drive through, because you knew if you had these people in those places, you didn't have to worry about it. So when the preferable stuff was literally hitting the fan, you could say, "Oh, Alex is back there. I don't have to worry about it." Hey, did y'all lay out Chick? I don't have to worry about it. Alex is back there. If he ain't got something, he's gonna tell me, or. And so I think that was part of it too. We all just kind of started it, and then, man, just like good football teams, you start talking to each other without talking to each other. Hey, dude, I'm already making them. Hey, I need 3 runs of fillets, 2 He's like, the fillets are already down. The nuggets, I'm breading them right now. And so it just became like, it was great. It was a lot of fun. And and the whole drive-through thing. I mean, now that these guys, y'all are so fancy now with your headsets out there and your iPads, and you're taking credit cards out there. I'm like, dude, I remember being back there with walkie-talkies and note cards and writing it down and handing it to the customer. And then when you get to the window, hand them this card, and they would hand it to someone at the window. That person would ring everything up while the expediters were shoving it out. So, I mean, it's just like I said, to see the evolution of, when we thought 110 cars was a big deal, and now you got stores doing 300 every day. And it's crazy. And then I think about the average ticket too. I mean, it's just incredible what this little business that started in a mall turned into, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize when we talk about these markets, it's almost unimaginable to think that y'all didn't have a store in Chicago, y'all didn't have a store in Kansas, y'all didn't have a store on the West Coast. Like, yeah, these were all things around the time that we got introduced to each other that were starting to take legs, like get legs and starting to get some muscle behind, man. And dude, you said so much I wanted to touch on in that. Like, there's been plenty of mornings I'm waking up coater all over my forearms.
Aprons, just give me an apron. I can't clean this in 24 hours. Just give me an apron.
Yeah, no, and just I forgot that we did Doral together. I remember doing that opening day or the next day, like we shut down the power grid on the pad where the store was at.
Yep.
Like the store lost power. I mean, just I got a chance to experience things that I never experienced back home,
Right.
with you guys. And so, man, no, that's cool. Like, I remember, again, going back to that Midwest City, Oklahoma opening, they didn't have any afternoon staff. So it was me, Nico, and Freddie running the afternoons. It was just the three of us,
Just trying to survive, bro.
yeah, man. No, man. So no, I really, again, I told y'all at the top of this that this conversation is more for me than it is for y'all, in terms of just reliving a lot of these moments, because I feel like, as Chick-fil-A has grown, yes, technology has taken the place of a lot of things that we do, but back then you had to rely on this. You had to rely on your wit, your intellect, and that camaraderie to get certain things done. Now we have iPads telling us how much chicken to drop and how much this, how much that. Like, during the grand opening, there was nothing like that. You had to feel, you had to know, you had to just be more plugged into the business. And so I think that, man,
Well, Alex, just think about how many more products there were back then. Y'all streamlined the menu. I mean, bro, we had carrot raisin, chicken salad, side salads, 4 main salads, 3 different wraps. And we literally had a team of women back there, plus fruit cups, back there that would just make, because we had no idea. How many chicken salads should I make? I don't know. Let's start with 2 batches and see how it goes.
yeah.
How many salads should I make? Hey, start with 50 of each, and let's just see what moves. And so that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was crazy. And I remember being in Northern California at Ben Levin's opening, and we ran out of ice cream. And the closest warehouse was, 15 hours away. So that was not an option. So I remember Tammy Guindano, she's got 2 stores in Southern California over there by Disney World. And she called a business consultant and got the recipe from the safe. Literally got someone to get the ice cream recipe from the safe. And we went to the store and got eggs, milk, cream, sugar, and vanilla, and had to make ice cream mix in the kitchen because we were out. And this is the other thing I love is we refused to not have ice cream for someone's first experience. Rather than say, hey, so I mean, how many times now have you been to McDonald's and they're like, the ice cream machine's broken? And we were like, man, that ain't happening, bro. We are not gonna have that. We'll make it. And we made it. So I do remember that, and just some crazy off the wall stuff, man, that we had to do. And then just building it with all those GOSs, that original crew out there on the West Coast, Adam and Jeremiah, and shoot, who else was out there? There's 3 of them. Joanne Fecht, not Fecht anymore. I'm sorry. Her and her husband have 2 stores in Houston. Anyway, Casey, her and Casey. So I mean, it was really, really fun. And then to meet some of the consultants and Andrew. I mean, I spent so much time with Andrew Cathy because when he left, that was the rule. When anyone from the family left college, they had to go work somewhere else for 5 years before they could come into the fold. And he had just finished his little stint at Ritz-Carlton and was finally getting involved in the West Coast. And Andrew was out there, and then Mark was at Pepperdine still. And I remember Cathy kept his surfboards at Adam Hoffman's place for a while he was at school. So I mean, and now these guys are running the whole company. So it's really, again, for me, it's cool to see. Man, I remember when he was back there and he wasn't even running the West Coast yet, and then he became the leader of the West Coast, and now he's running the whole company. So it's really cool to see some of those things, and some of these kids like Adobe. Man, she just used to, I remember she would always run boards, and I was always on screens. I just thought she was so mean because she would just always yell at me. And and she just wanted what she wanted when she wanted it. And I get it. She was trying to, and then, man, she became a business consultant, and now she's got a store down there in Pasadena. She's right on the parade route. So every year for the Rose Bowl parade, she gets lit up, and that's what I'm saying. That's the beauty of this is I have friends all over the country, man, because of Chick-fil-A, and who would have thought that? So it's crazy. And I love to see these guys now that, like yourself, man, and some of these guys that were just, wet behind the ears little kids and didn't know anything, and then and now they're running stores for people, running their own stores. They've created operators, and just to see that legacy continue is pretty amazing. It's really awesome.
Dude, your name dropping like crazy right now. Like, I remember Adobe Guasham. She worked with Robert as a GOS at one point. That's how I came to know her. And just to hear about her journey, like even Francisco Hernandez, I know he was a part of the West Coast team. Now he's an operator. Just like Adam Hoffman was a GOS at my first grand opening. And really, let me tell you the truth, man. When I did my first grand opening, before I went to it, I was going to school to become an engineer. When I got in touch with Adam Hoffman and he pulled out these drawings of the freezer, and he was like, man, I know exactly how many cases we can fit in here. He had the schematic, and it was like, yo, I can take this engineering stuff that I like and bring it over to the chicken joint, man. I can do a lot of this stuff that I envision myself, like these skills that I want to like tap into. I can bring that over to Chick-fil-A. So yeah, man, no, Adam Hoffman
was the original that was the original West Coast team. Was Joanne, it was Fecht, now it's Hughes, Adam Hoffman, and Jeremiah Chilpalm. And I did the first opening with those guys when they first got on, and man, like you said, Adam would just nerd out, bro. He would just nerd out. He had diagrams of the 4 different stores that we were building at the time, and exactly where to put all the Metro shelves to fit all the dry products and everything. And then he had a schematic for how to set up the freezer, a schematic for how to set up the walk-in. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, it got so good that we could literally we had built the Bible. We basically called it Grand Opening Bible, man, and just would bring it to openings, and everything was done. And it was so fun to get to do that and to spend time with these guys. And I had those same, like, oh my God. I mean, I remember Adam back there seeing how fast he could quick clean a Henny, because this was before they shut off on you. And he would be back there with a stopwatch and, the skinny brush and the white brush, and just how fast he could do it so that he could, have this, oh, hey man, it takes this much time. We can have this, and we could time the machines, because back then, man, you only had 4. And we were pushing out crazy numbers with 4 machines. Now you walk into some of these stores, dude, and they got 4 machines on one side, 4 on this side, 4 just for spicy. And I'm like, man, y'all living it on easy street these days, dude. I'm like, man, quit, filters that clean themselves and all that. I'm like, golly, this is so nice.
Yeah.
Some of this technology is so nice. And now with that, the sliding door in the drive-through, I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is next level, bro. It's awesome. It's awesome to see where the marriage of ideas and technology meet, and it's so cool to see that. And because I mean, I remember having these conversations with business consultants, like, hey man, what if we had a regional team? And we used to talk about this with the Houston operators. What if we had a facility that had 3 Hennies in it, like a dummy kitchen, like what they have at corporate, and it had 3 Hennies in it, a flat grill, an oven. And we basically we have a group that runs that facility, and we take over the training for the whole market. Every operator, after you onboard someone, they come to the training facility for 2 weeks, and they got to get certified by the certified trainers. Then they go back to the store. And I don't know if that ever took off, but man, I still think it'd be a good idea. I mean, because as an operator, what's your biggest headache, man? Is training, because it's just, you're so busy, you don't have the time to do it. And I think that was the beautiful thing when we first started the Grand Opening Trainer program, was getting people out of the chaos and into corporate where there's not customers, and you could actually take your time and learn it, and we always said that when we would teach people, man, once you learn it, it's just the being comfortable with it. And once you are comfortable with it, then comes the speed. Because I remember having conversations. I'm looking at someone, I'm just wrapping sandwiches, and people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, do you know how long it took? How many food distributions of doing 10,000 sandwiches in a 8-hour period it took me to finally figure out the flip and the crease? It's like, it took forever, but I that's also the thing. It's nobody wants to take the time to do that. They want to be on chapter 10, my chapter 20, and they're in chapter 1, and they want to like fast forward. And I'm like, it takes 10 years to have 10 years experience, bro. And there is no shortcut. Well, what if I work double hours, and what if I do this, and what if I do this? How long till I can be, have 10 years of experience? 10 years, bro. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. And I think that's the biggest disconnect now, especially with like my kids, and some of these techniques in football and just life in general. Like, how did he know that? Well, being on the planet for 43 years, bro, you learn something. Right. Now, if you just weren't so hard-headed and would listen, you'd be all right. And but there was also, this thing where people would send their people who were awesome at their store to openings, and they just would fail. Because just because you can do it, Alex, doesn't mean that you can convey it and articulate it in words that someone else can grasp it. And there really is a true passion for teaching. You really have to have that servant heart to teach someone, because a lot of times some people, the ego people, want to push them out of the way and let me do that for you, but they're not learning anything. And then, because I saw it 100 times where they would say, oh, well, this guy's my best breader. Okay, cool, but how can he teach? Can he teach someone else to be the best breader? Because that's what we needed. I don't need your best breader, because when he leaves the store, what are they going to do? We're trying to build an army to take on this when we leave. So, if they can't teach, I don't care how fast he can bread, or how good he is at screens, or how good he is at fries. If he can't teach this, 15-year-old kid to do what he can do, I can't use him. And I think some operators would get upset with that, but it was the truth, and I still feel that way now. It's like, man, just because you can do it doesn't mean you can teach someone to do it, and have the patience, because, man, it does take, watching people fumble around with the bags and trying to fold them, or nugget boxes. You remember when we would just, and it would pop open, and and I would, people are trying to use the spoon and all that. I'm like, dude, put the spoon down. But that's what they taught us. I'm like, yes, you're right. During normal hours and normal business, you use the spoon, bro. But, we got 100 cars in the drive-thru right now, and we're holding up traffic on the highway because they can't get in the parking lot. We got to go. So, tons of things. We could do probably 4 podcasts just on the leadership aspect of things that I learned at Chick-fil-A. Respect people. Golly, dude. Just now, and now it's like a foreign deal. And then kindness. I learned so much. I worked at the Chick-fil-A over there in Westview, right down the street from the Med Center, for Julie Salvaggio for a while. And man, you have 30 seconds to interact with someone that, man, they just lost their mom, or they just lost their dad, or a doctor comes in and he's been in the operating room for 15 hours and tried everything he could and lost the patient. And then you have people who, man, my mom's been fighting cancer for 10 years and she just won and she got to ring the bell today. So you're having this just huge swing and emotion from one person you talk to the next, to the next, to the next. And I really learned how to communicate effectively through Chick-fil-A. When you can sit down with someone and talk to them for hours, sure. But when you got to try to make a connection in a minute and a half, 2 minutes, it's like speed dating.
Yeah.
You really learn. You really do. And it helps me now in my sales job, because, you run into people from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, all different religions. It teaches you to respect people in the background that they came from, because just like you didn't choose where you grew up, they didn't either. And so, but most people are pretty proud of where they come from. So you can't be like, oh, well, they're trash because they grew up here, or, oh, they're so rich because they came from here. It just teaches you to really be kind and respect people, and to hear their stories. And that's my favorite part of what I do now, is getting to meet people and hear their stories. And that was my favorite thing about openings, man. So, where are you from? Oh, cool. How many stores your operator have? Oh, cool. How long you been at Chick-fil-A? Oh, 6 months and you're here? Okay, now, like, hey, dude, don't expect this when you go home. But, because you become, it's like a crack addict. You become addicted to that rush. And you won't find it in the day-to-day operations. And so for me, that was the hardest part, was transitioning back into the store when I wasn't at an opening. Because I'm like, bro, this is so slow. And they're like, Brad, what are you talking about? We didn't do, 3,200 an hour. And I'm like, yeah, dude, this is cakewalk. Oh, we just did 215 cars. I'm like, oh, that's cute. And you almost kind of get this like callousness to it. So, you really have to kind of find, okay, well, during the slow times, what can I do? Oh, go back there and work with, the kid that's only been here for 3 weeks, and teach him and tell him about the possibilities of what it could lead to. And that was the other thing I think that people don't realize. in the day-to-day store, just a high school kid working at Chick-fil-A or a college kid working through Chick-fil-A, you don't realize that everything they have in the real world private sector, it's at Chick-fil-A. There's business consultants, there's engineers, there's safety people, there's all kinds of things that it can lead to, product development, marketing, advertising, lawyers, just crazy stuff that you get to do. I mean, I remember when they rolled out cheese and I'm like, what? Y'all are serving cheese with fries? And like, oh yeah, because the market, or when they started slapping lettuce, tomato, and onions on everything. And I'm like, what? Because it was market specific. Every other place in that market had it. So we couldn't roll in and not offer it. So it's, again, I learned a lot about how to run a business, how to, hey man, this all costs, having everybody in here costs money. Every time, you give 2 extra sauces, it costs money. Hey man, if you ain't paying attention to that labor and it gets away from you, that's the difference between us making money and not making money. And you don't realize it as a kid, but then when you get in the real world and you want to be an entrepreneur and you start to, I mean, especially you, look at you own what, 3 businesses, 4 businesses now? Every time I turn around, you're starting doing another startup, bro.
Yeah.
So I think you're just a glutton for punishment too, man. You like the abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would have to say, man, I think that's one of the things that Chick-fil-A has given me the most, like the gift of being able to run a business. I didn't graduate from college, so I didn't necessarily get the formal training, but I truly believe that everything that I've experienced, like even bumping into people like you, all these other people who have went on to do these other great things has that was my education. That's how I learned. Now, I will say the only difference is Chick-fil-A is that will spoil you. The support center offers you every single thing you need to be successful. When you're out there on your own, there is no IT to call. There is no legal to call. You don't have a cash accountant. You don't have this accountant. So you're kind of doing those things on your own. But I've just been fortunate enough to be around people to where I can figure it out. And, and I think I wanted to kind of go back to something you said earlier, and I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. At least I know you're no longer affiliated with Chick-fil-A, so you're letting it go. But for me, it's like there's just such a level of excellence that we used to have back in the day, a certain level of pride in what you did in your job that you just don't see as much now than you did before. Like just the intensity that we every single day. At least for me, I came in and said, I'm going to show those guys that I belong here, and I try to do my very best to fit into the level of excellence that you guys are doing. I don't know if that same bug is around, not as prevalent, at least, as what it used to be back in the day.
I think the biggest change, and again, I can speak freely. I mean, I was on the inside for so long, but I think when the specialization from it went away, it lost its luster. When they put and quite frankly, when they put a salary cap on it, when you start to cap the hours, well, then it takes it away. If you're going to cap me at 40, well, shoot, I might as well just stay at home at the crib and see my wife and kids every night. The whole reason I would go is because I could make I mean, I'm not trying to sound flashy, but I mean, I could make what I made in a month and a half in a 2-week time. Easy. Because they would but that's what it was. And yes, everyone got to do openings in Houston because we had so many stores, we could facilitate our own market. But when you got a shirt, when you got that polo that said Chick-fil-A West Coast team, it meant something, because not just anybody back then, not just anybody could go to West Coast openings, because it was just the volume was different. Everything was different. And that was part of the reason. I mean, diamonds are made from constant heat and lots of pressure. And I mean, literally from the time the lights went on at 6 a.m. until we were trying to shut it down at 10, most of the times it was 11 or 11:30, because we didn't want to turn anyone away and say, hey, sorry, we're closed. It just took special. I mean, so many times we would bring people out there and 6 hours in, they're like, I can't do this. my feet hurt, this hurts. Hey man, I don't know how you're doing that. Hey dude, I got, doing machines and the calluses are all cut open and their hands are blistered and bleeding, and it's like we it was special to us, and I mean, I use the reference a lot, but I think it's the same as like regular enlisted in the army and then like Green Berets. Yes, no one's shooting you, no one's killing you, but it was that elite caliber, because I remember showing up to my first opening, and man, when they're going around introducing themselves, everyone's like, I've done 8, I've done 10, I've done 15, and I'm like, first one. And so you're just kind of like, Brad, please don't embarrass yourself. Please don't embarrass yourself, because you literally have your name tag with your name on it. When, hey, who's on Bradding? Oh, that Brad guy. And someone else had to jump in there. And so we would, like you said, you would challenge yourself to see how many racks you could make. I'm like, please don't call me off of breading because I want to do this, or machines, you like, hey, dude, let me step in there for you. And then, when you do have to step in for people, they'd be like, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, bro. We're going to learn. We're going to learn together. Don't be sorry, but this is a different pace than what you're used to. This is a different pace than what you're used to. And we all knew that, and it was crazy trying to just, but it's just such a person, man. And even my last ones, that's why because I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I just physically couldn't stand in one place for 15 hours. My feet would just be dying, I mean, and that's the whole thing, it takes a special person to run on 2 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, or hey, 2 hours here, 2 hours there, but the phone's ringing in between, all the stress, when you get there and the construction's not done, and opening up all the equipment and starting it up for the first time, seasoning the grill, and just all these little things that became ingrained in you. And you would say, hey, did somebody season the grill? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But bro, it's got to be done. Hey, did somebody put the filters in and all the hennies? Oh man, we didn't even think about that. What do you mean? Like, bro, what are you waiting for? You wait till opening day? Like, let's get it. And just some of those little things that we would say, hey man, set up all the lids and stuff this way. Set up the boxes this. I mean, we literally had a way that we would set the extra empty nugget boxes so that you could grab them in a second and reload. And same thing. I mean, when we had people that was your own job during the opening. Bro, make sure we do not run out of clamshells, foil bags, or nugget boxes and fries. Please, someone go check the fries every 5 minutes. If you walk by the fry freezer, open it up and make sure there's at least 5 boxes in there. If not, go get $2 right now.
Yeah, right on.
Because we are going to run out. We are going to run out.
Yeah.
And we just had every little detail planned to the nth degree. But it was, hey man, either you can do this or you can't. And it meant something, like I said, it was a special privilege to get to wear that West Coast. It was a special privilege to have Chicago on your shirt. I mean, they had the Chicago flag on the sleeve and they were blue, like baby blue. So you knew when someone did a Chicago, and he was like, oh, dude, you were there for that? Holy crap, And again, I can only test it to like major baseball sports teams or whatever. What, you won a Super Bowl? Like, you were there, you did, like, and or military guys when they went to Fallujah or Iraq or something, like, what, you were there for that? And that's how it was, man. It was really special. And it's because you could make a month or 2 months worth of wages in a shorter period of time, and you felt like you were part of something bigger than yourself. And that was the whole thing. I do not care if y'all have to bring a saw and cut both my feet off at the ankles. I'm not leaving this spot because Alex is depending on me to run this spot, or Jenny or Tiffany or whoever. So until they leave too, I'm right here. Hey, some of us are going to leave to go eat. Yeah, but hey man, Juan's back there pulling chicken out, I'm gonna go help him, and we'll walk out together. And that's how it was, man. It was like if one stayed, we all stayed, and we really became a family and a unit. And it was awesome. It was so awesome to see a group of strangers from a different, all different walks of life come in there and come together for one common goal. And it was to, set up this operator one, but also this store and this community for greatness. And then, make sure the operator's in great hands so that he can continue that legacy. And I think in some ways they've gotten away from it. And in other ways you still see it. And it's just, but that's the diversity piece, it's just like when we were there, one year it would be like, we're only giving stores to people who came from Chick-fil-A. If they didn't come from Chick-fil-A, they're not getting a store. And then other years it would be like, nobody from Chick-fil-A is getting a store. We're only giving them to people from outside that have business experience. And it was just trying to find this happy medium of mix and where you can really make the biggest impact. And I think that's what everybody wants to do, whether you're at Chick-fil-A or oil field or running a taco truck or whatever you're doing, man. You want to impact people through food. We all have to eat, and that's the one business I think that will never go away. But I also think it's the hardest business. High overhead, high costs, crazy margins. You really have to be not micromanager, but you really have to be able to manage things in order to be successful with a restaurant. It's tough, dude. It's tough to start a restaurant, build it up from a concept to an idea to a food truck and passing out food to hopefully, God, a brick and mortar building to hopefully selling it as a franchise. Next thing you know, it's all over the country. I do not think that old Uncle Truett, when he was around, thought that it would ever go from a greasy spoon diner with 8 seats in a gravel parking lot to only serving the night shift at Coca-Cola and Delta to starting food courts. The dude started food courts literally to, having from only being in malls to now having only freestanders to being nationwide. And I know they used to have something in South Africa or something. I don't know if they're still worldwide, but still, I mean, this little dude who didn't even have an 8th grade education, and look what he built because he had an idea and some grit, some major freaking grit. And look what it turned into, man. And look how many people he's impacted. Hundreds of, at this point, it's millions. Not just patrons, but people within the organization. Us, I mean, look at us. How many people, man, started out as 15-year-old kids and now they're running multi-units. The outreach program that they do for kids and wives, and I could talk about the greatness of the company all the time. I mean, for days. Just in the experiences that it gave me. I mean, I'm not, I've been out for a while now. Over 10 years, and I still, talk about it all the time. And people are like, you still say we. When you talk about Chick-fil-A, you still say we. And I'm like, I guess I do. Because it was such a family for me, and I guess it always will be. And I learned so much. And for me, it's full circle. Like I said, seeing my kid work there and him come home and just, oh, I'm so tired. I did expediting for 5 hours. And I'm just like, oh, bro. You got no clue, my man.
Yeah, no, man. I think you hit on a lot there, and I think, and I really want to touch on this back end of what you said. I feel like Chick-fil-A for us is so special because you were speaking about it earlier. You were there for the inline kitchen. You were there to see the maturation of the drive-through play. Y'all was using walkies. I was remember when they used to send flip phones to grand openings for operators to facilitate the drive-through, and I think Chick-fil-A has given us an opportunity to leave our mark on like the business. Like, you had a chance to do things chain wide. Like for me in my restaurant, the things I get to implement, you're leaving a legacy. And there's not many businesses that give you the opportunity to leave a legacy for the people that you get a chance to serve. So No, that's incredible. So I mean, you've already touched on a bunch of memories here. Like you said, we probably can talk for hours about just memory lane. But man, what are some of the best memories? I think you've already said some of these, but what are some of the best memories that you have from working at Chick-fil-A?
Oh man, there are countless. Um, I do remember my first time going to corporate and getting to go to the treehouse and meet Truett for the first time. I mean, and for me, he was like a god, right? I mean, I was just like, this old man who literally couldn't buy shoes, pulling around, doing, and the fact that I still know the story, people are just like, how do you remember? But I'm like, I was infatuated with him because it gave me hope. It gave me, I mean, my parents were not, we were not poor. I don't want to set the stage like, oh, I'm not a project kid. We were not on food stamps, but we were just above the poverty line. You know, I mean, both my parents, you know, had jobs where they made 60 grand a year, which, you know, now it's like you can't even live off that. Um, so to see a guy with only an eighth grade education and just some ingenuity, and he was like, dude, I'm gonna make money and I'm gonna take the Coke bottles back and then I'm gonna walk down the street with them and sell them. And then to turn that into a restaurant, like I said, that he really thought he was just gonna be a Denny's, you know. I mean, basically that's what it was. The Dorf House was a Denny's, a greasy spoon diner with just a few seats, and he saw a need for that third shift and created a solution for it. And then, you know, like I said, they would have a little house out back and they would be asleep, and when they hear the cars hit the gravel, he would throw on the apron and go turn on the grill, and they would take care of people like that. To have the idea to and the sand to go to these corporate malls, you know, these dudes in suits, and say, hey, you got these mofos walking around here. When they leave to go eat, they don't come back. What if we did something? They're like, oh yeah, but we don't want greasy chicken bones everywhere. And he's like, hold up, I'll come up with something. And then he pitches the Chick-fil-A sandwich, and then boom, he's in, you know, a few malls in Georgia, and now you've got a food court with 15 options in every mall in America. I mean, to turn it into, like I said, a global giant, and to do it the way he did it so smartly, where corporate is, you know, basically a museum, so they can't, you know, the tax write-offs and all that. I'm just like, how did a dude who didn't go to the eighth grade know about tax write-offs, like, and to set it up as a museum so no one could come and take away his empire, and then to keep it in-house. I mean, how many people, as they started to blow up, came and said, let us buy this from you. Hey, let us go public. Let us go public. Hey, let's go public. So for them to deny the money and withstand I mean, I'm sure the boys now, I'm sure Mark and Andrew get it all the time. Hey, we got investors. Let's go public. Let's go public. And they're like, no, man. And to be debt free. I mean, to be debt free as such a global giant is another thing. And then to just set the standard. I mean, literally to set the standard across the board for every other restaurant in the country, whether it's a 5-star dining experience or Wendy's or McDonald's. Everywhere you go now, they say my pleasure. Where they get that from? You know what I mean? Everywhere they go now, from the corporate level, they want to filter it down to the stores, but a lot of the stores, it just hasn't happened yet. And I will say that is the one thing about Chick-fil-A is the culture. And it is the same in Doral, Florida, that it is in Seattle, Washington, that it is in Chicago, that it is in Laredo. And I've seen it. I've traveled it. I've seen it. And I will say that is the one thing that I am so amazed by, is how they kept that uniformity. across the board for man. And that's the other thing, man. You really have to be a special person, because there is nothing, when we used to hire 15 and 16-year-old kids, there's nothing tough or hard about you saying, my pleasure. Thank you for coming. How can I help you? There's nothing tough about that. So you just really have to have a servant heart and be a part of something bigger to work it. And I think that's also why um, everybody got along for the most part. From, like I said, we've said it multiple times, different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, different, but at the true heart of it, you have to be a servant and you have to love people, because it doesn't matter where you are in the company, that applies, and everyone is serving everyone. And then Chick-fil-A reinvented the business model. For years it was always investors, CEO, president at the top of the pyramid, you know corporate workers, people in the field, at day-to-day employees at the bottom, and they flip the triangle. And I mean, and they live that every day, where that you when you meet, at least for me, the first time I met corporate people, I was just like, how can we help you? How can we serve you? What are the issues that you're dealing with at the stores? Hey, what do you, and especially when it got to like grand opening supervisor, hey, how can we make this better for y'all? How can we make this a better experience for y'all? Because y'all are the face of the company. Y'all are the face of the company to these people who don't know who Chick-fil-A is. So if you're hurting and you're unhappy and you're not, at feel like you're being mistreated, then that's going to come off. And they were just so like, what do you need? And they listen. I mean, they listen to us. Hey man, we need an elite group of people that we can travel around and do this. Hey man, we need this like streamlined, like a car factory, where you got one dude cranking on one bolt. And so that kind of morphed into, all right, well, we'll just have one person doing nothing but buttering buns, one person doing nothing but toasting, one person doing nothing but putting the pickles, one person doing just the fillets, one person covering them, two people wrapping them. And then that's that's literally just where the whole inline kitchen idea came from. Like, how can we streamline this thing where we can just pump stuff out of here? And it was like, simplify, simplify, simplify. Don't overcomplicate it. And you can transfer that to any business, and I don't care what it is. Being kind to everyone, treat everyone like they need to be treated, and the best leaders serve. That whole lead like Jesus movement, lead like Jesus, serve like Jesus. He never talked down to his students. He never, made them feel dumb or stupid when they asked silly questions. When they had ideas, he authentically listened to them, because he knew when he left that they were going to be the face of his, company, Christianity. But it's the same thing, man. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is just, it literally becomes a part of you, and you live it, and it doesn't. And I think that's also why they've had so much success, and why you've had so much success, because you take those little, what some people would say not important, but man, they're the biggest part of it. Big great leaders serve, and they do. I think that model has to come out. And there's some big time guys out there talking about it now. Simon Sinek, who I love Simon Sinek. I've every book he's my next like guru. Everything he puts out, I'm like, yes, more please, more please. I follow him on socials. I got all his books. But I learned that cutting my teeth at Chick-fil-A, man, is to serve others, and to never forget the first day you put on that uniform and how scary it was standing behind that register and just seeing the dining room go from no people to line out the door. Or, being on breading and they're like, hey dude, the drive-thru's double wrapped, and people literally can't, the parking lot is stuck. People can't get in and people can't get out. So hurry up, and you're just like, ah. And I had, big brothers, big sisters that came and were like, hey dude, take a deep breath. We're gonna do this one sandwich at a time. You're gonna fill one fry at a time, and you just, and you figure it out, and it's like that in business. It's like that with a team. It's like that, and you can't achieve anything by yourself. I mean, I guess nowadays you can, but man, there's no fun in that. Achieving things by yourself is no fun, man. When you can really see, and that's my biggest joy, man, is seeing guys like you, man. I remember so many times sitting in hotel rooms talking about, hey, man, one day I'd like to run a restaurant. Hey, man, one day I'd like to, buy this or buy that. Man, one day I think I'd like to, did you think you'd have a, a design studio and furniture? And I mean, bro, but I mean, and that's what it is. I think sometimes you're like, hey, man, you can do whatever you want to do. And I think sometimes on ourselves, it's that literally that, no, I can't. No, I can't. And you have to get over your own fears and your own and realize, dude, it really is, especially nowadays, anything is possible. I mean, shoot, you got people who are millionaires from feet pics. So come on.
Dude, no, man. Brad, I can't thank you enough. We've gotta do lunch or something like that one day.
Totally.
Because I like talking to people that bring me back to that time. You get so bogged down in the now, and you get so bogged down with the issues, and like just the tone of the workforce now is just different. It's just different, man. And it's so cool to talk to. I don't call you a throwback, but like just talk to, like, you bring me back to 2008,
The
2009.
OGs, bro. The OGs.
And you go and you remember just the stuff that you did to build yourself. Like, you said it best. I feel like Chick-fil-A has given me so much confidence to do all these other things. Like, it all started from that, though. It all started from this experience, putting that apron on, putting those gloves on, changing those cold masters, filleting that. It all started from that, man. And so, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I think you've answered, without me asking these questions, you answered every one of them.
Is there one I didn't answer?
No,
we get out of here.
No. The next question was going to be, what advice would you give somebody to grow their Chick-fil-A career? And you just gave a masterclass the last 10 minutes, talking about that. I think you hit the nail on the head, for me at least. Unless you have anything else you wanted to add to that, but I think you crushed it.
I would just say, man, it's not about you. And it doesn't matter if you're 15 and it's your first day and you're only working 7 hours a week, or you're the general manager and you're making 6 figures, or you're a multi-unit operator and you're a multi-millionaire now. Do never forget, it is not about you. And especially when you get to the mid-level and above, the reason that you don't have to show up to that store every day is because you have people, one, that you trust and they trust you, but that believe in you to get them to the next step. And I think for me, at the end especially, because I had traveled and got away from a home unit, I didn't feel like I had that champion who could advocate for me on a corporate level for me to get to where I wanted to be. Because I joined Chick-fil-A because it was like, you could be, I won't say worthless, you could be a poor kid with no hope and no future and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and eventually own a store. Now, for me, my path was different. So I don't want this to be like I'm angry, because I'm not. I would not change it for anything. And knowing what I know now, I would go back and do it 100 times over, again and again and again. I loved it. But I would say, to you leaders out there, do not forget to love on your people who are fighting the daily battle for you, and who are your face and your name to your community and to the rest of the people in your restaurant. Because you guys who are in the restaurant every day have a huge platform to make an incredible impact on everyone that works with you in the store, but also people who come into the store. And like I said, you don't know what someone's going through. They could have just found out that their mom beat cancer and she's going to be around longer, or just found out that man, she's got 3 months to live, and you can make or break the day. And so I always used to tell our young people, you leave your personal baggage at the door and be here for other people, and then you can pick it up on your way out, because we all got our own crap. We all do. And so that's the really unselfish part of it. And it's not about you, it'll never be about you. And when you make it about you, it's going to start to fall apart quickly. So I wish people would apply that to every business. I really do. Make people feel seen and heard, especially nowadays, brother. Nobody feels seen or heard. Depression is on the rise. Just so many people feel like I'm just a look, you're never just a cashier. You're never just a food runner. You're never just a drive-through person. You're never just that. There's so much potential inside of you, and you may not see it yet, but you're way bigger than your position, and you're way bigger than your job. We were all sent here for a purpose, and there's only one Alex Field, and he was sent here for a purpose, whether you know that purpose now or you don't. But the world would not be the same if you weren't here, because whatever's gift you have is inside you. And going to college can't change your gift. It can only enhance your gift, but it can't give you your gift. And I think sometimes when we're lost, we want to go to school, and school give us our purpose, but it's not in you. It's just like a bird. A bird is born, it can fly. It doesn't go to flight school. A fish doesn't go to swim school. It's in them, and it's in you. No one can show it to you. Now, you can hinder someone's gift. You can take a bird and put it in a cage, but it can still fly. It just can't fly as far. It can't, you know, go miles, but the gift is in you. And I think sometimes we get away from that because we do become self-absorbed with our own crap. But people need to hear that, man, and they need to hear it today more than ever. That you're special. You were sent here for one purpose. There are 8 billion people on the planet, and there's one Alex. So go be Alex, dude, and be the best Alex you can be, and then teach Juan to be the best Juan he can be, and that's where you start to see the change. Because we have become, oh, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference, and that's bullcrap. That's what the world wants you to think. You are a difference just by being here. And until you don't get to wake up anymore, you got to keep being the difference, bro. So I love you. I am so honored and blessed that you asked me to do this. And I love to see this little dirty apron 15-year-old dude that used to be covered in coder from head to toe, shoes, black shoes, just white, become a little guru himself on leadership and what you've done for others and the impact you're making, brother. Keep doing you. You are a blessing. I love you, man.
I appreciate it, Brad. Hey, guys, like I told y'all, this is for me more than it is for y'all, but I'm sure you're gonna get something out of this. Brad, thank you again so much, man. I appreciate you joining the show, and until next time, TPE family, peace.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.